All right, let's talk about what really happens in your kitchen. We're going to go beyond just following recipes. The goal here is to help you become someone who truly understands the why behind the cooking, to really get a feel for the fundamental science of what makes food great. So, have you ever wondered what really separates good cooking from, well, great cooking? You know that feeling, right? You follow the recipe to the letter, every single step, but it's just missing that wow factor. It's good for sure, but it's not unforgettable. So, what's the secret sauce?
Well, the secret isn't some fancy ingredient. It's the fact that cooking isn't just an art, it's also a science. It's about understanding the rules of the game. Once you get a handle on the basic chemistry and physics happening in that pan, you unlock this incredible ability to improvise, to fix things when they go wrong, and to make amazing food consistently. So, let's break those rules down.
Okay, first things first, we gotta start with the ingredients themselves. I mean, to cook anything well, you have to know what you're working with, right? And what's wild is that pretty much all food, whether it's a carrot or a steak, is built from the same handful of core components. Think of them as the main characters in our story.
And here they are, your kitchen's main characters. You've got water, carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Each one has its own superpower. Water, obviously, brings the moisture. Carbs, we're talking starches and sugars, they're all about texture and sweetness. Proteins, they give food its structure. Think about the chewiness of bread or how an egg gets firm. And fat, fat is the ultimate flavor carrier. It's what makes things taste so incredibly good. So, let's put this into practice with a super common kitchen mystery. Why do oil and vinegar always separate? You've been there. You shake up a vinaigrette, it looks perfect, all creamy and combined. You turn away for like 30 seconds and boom, separated. What is going on there? The answer has to do with something called polarity. Okay, so it really does all boil down to this idea of polar versus non-polar molecules. See, water molecules are polar. Think of them as having these tiny little positive and negative ends, like microscopic magnets. They just love to stick to each other. Fat molecules, on the other hand, are nonpolar. They're neutral, no charge. So what happens is the water molecules are so busy clinging to each other that they basically shove all the fat molecules out of their club. And that's it. That's why they won't mix. All right, so we've got our ingredients down. Now we need to talk about our number one tool in the kitchen, heat. And listen, heat isn't just about cranking up the temperature. It's the engine that drives almost every transformation. But here's the thing, heat isn't just one simple concept. It actually gets around in a few different ways. Yep, there are basically three ways heat moves. First up is conduction. That's just direct contact. Searing a steak in a hot pan? That's conduction. Then you've got convection. That's heat moving through a fluid, which can be air or water. The hot air swirling around in your oven baking a cake? Classic convection. And finally, there's radiation. This is heat traveling as energy waves. Think of the intense heat coming off a grill or a broiler. The crazy thing is, most of the time you're using a mix of all three without even realizing it. Okay, let's tackle maybe the single most frustrating problem in the kitchen. Why does my food sometimes steam in the pan instead of getting that beautiful deep brown crust? You know what I'm talking about. You're going for that perfect sear, and instead you end up with gray, kind of soggy, steaming stuff. It's the worst. So, what's the deal? Here's the simple science. Browning and steaming are mortal enemies. They cannot coexist. To get that amazing browning, you need really high heat. But if your pan's too cold, or you overcrowd it with too much food, or the food itself is wet, you create steam. And steam is the enemy because it puts a temperature cap on everything. Water boils at 100 degrees Celsius, or 212 Fahrenheit, and that's just not hot enough for those magical browning reactions to kick in. You're basically just boiling your food in the pan. Now, when you do get that heat right, oh man, that's when the fun starts. You're not just cooking anymore, you're a chemist. You're setting off these incredible chemical reactions. This is the real magic of the kitchen. It's where simple raw ingredients are transformed into something with complex, amazing flavors and textures. So that beautiful brown color we love so much, it mostly comes from two celebrity chemical reactions. First, you have the Maillard reaction. This is the one that gives you those deep, savory, roasted flavors. It happens when proteins and sugars get together at high heat. Think seared steak, toasted bread, roasted coffee. Then you have caramelization. This one's simpler. It's just what happens when sugar itself gets hot and breaks down. That's where you get those nutty, buttery, sweet flavors of, well, caramel. Two totally different processes, but completely delicious.
But before those proteins can even think about doing something cool like the Maillard reaction, they have to change their shape first. This is a process called denaturation. The yarn analogy is perfect here. Imagine proteins are like these tightly wound, complex little balls of yarn. When you add heat or even acid, it's like you're pulling on the end and it just unspools. It unfolds. This is literally the first thing that happens when you cook an egg, some fish, or a piece of meat. It's what changes the texture from raw to cooked.
And carbs have their own cool transformation too. Let's look at starch granules. When you put something like flour or cornstarch in cold water, the little granules just float around, but start to heat it up and they begin to swell, just soaking up that water like tiny sponges. Get it hot enough and they actually burst, releasing all that starch into the liquid. And that is exactly how you thicken a sauce or a gravy. It's not magic, it's just awesome starch science.
Okay, last section. Let's talk about seasoning, because things like salt and acid are so much more than just a finishing touch. They're not just flavors, they are powerful tools that you can use to chemically change your food. Seriously.
The big scientific principle at play here is called osmosis, but don't let the word scare you. All it really means is that water follows salt. That's it. If you have a membrane, like the cell wall of a vegetable, water will move from an area with less salt to an area with more salt to try and balance things out. And you can use this simple fact to your advantage in so many ways.
Let's take a real-world example. You sprinkle salt on a sliced vegetable, say an eggplant. What happens? Osmosis kicks in, and water gets pulled right out of the vegetable's cells. This does two amazing things. One, it concentrates the actual flavor of the eggplant. And two, and this is key, it gets rid of excess water. And less water means less steam, which means better browning. See how it all connects? It's brilliant. Acid is your other secret weapon. I mean, it is so versatile. It can actually cook fish without any heat. That's ceviche. And it's using denaturation just like we talked about. A little bit of acid can help you whip up super stable, glossy meringues. It can even help potato cubes stay firm and not turn to mush in your potato salad. But you do have to be careful with it. Acid has a dark side. It will react with the chlorophyll in green vegetables and turn your vibrant, beautiful broccoli into a sad, dull, olive green color. So, use its powers for good. And that right there is the big idea I want you to take away from this. Salt and acid aren't just flavors. They are tools. They are every bit as important as your chef's knife or your favorite skillet. They're like chemical levers that let you fundamentally change the structure and texture of your food. So let's do a quick recap of the chef's toolkit we've just built. Number 1, know your materials: water, carbs, proteins, and fats. Number 2, master your tool. That's heat and how it moves. Number 3, learn the reactions you're aiming for, like Maillard and caramelization. And number 4, use your finishing tools, salt and acid, to tweak the final product. That's the whole shebang. You see, once you understand the why behind the how, everything changes. It's what elevates your cooking from just following steps to actually creating. It gives you the confidence to play around, to experiment, to rescue a dish when it starts to go sideways, and to make something that's totally, uniquely yours. So now that you know the rules of the game, what are you going to cook next?